dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye. And in menudo style in direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel, and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and I'm very appreciative, man. I couldn't do it without you. So it's been a year, man. It's been a year since everybody got humbled, right? Especially Savage Studios. Mr. Segala, right? Who I can tell you, man, first and foremost, there was a lot of distaste for him, man, when he was alive, coming from my part. You know, we went at it a couple times. There was a hatred instilled in him for me, man, that I couldn't understand. And I think it more so was I was the next big thing on the block, and he just didn't like that. You know, but I'm not here to slander that man at all. You know, you don't disrespect the dead. I learned that a long time ago. He's gone, man. He's paid his dues. He made the ultimate sacrifice for some of the choices he made. You know, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about social media and YouTube and how it tremendously affected this guy. And I wanted to tell an in-depth story, you know. Savage Studios, when he died, when he was killed, ultimately, I was shocked. I remember hearing the news that night, and, you know, somebody reached out to me, and they reached out to somebody I was dealing with, and he tapped into Savage Studios' old lady, man, at the time, and she confirmed his death, man, and we dropped the news immediately. And, you know, my first thought was content purposes, breaking news, let me get the views. You know, I didn't even think of the situation of what this guy's family was going through. And in my haste, man, I might have said some derogatory things, because there still was that hatred there. There still was that animosity towards, you know, friction towards how me and him were beefing with each other. But as I sat back and I started to realize and think about it, man, you know, I had conversations with this guy behind the scenes before. He wasn't a bad guy. The character that he played, the persona that he played on YouTube, on social media, wasn't the real Savage Studios. He was really a family man. He was really an ex-convict, regardless of what side he was on and where he went and his status. At one point in time, he was embraced. He was a Southerner, man. He was about his gente. And albeit, man, he was a little flamboyant. He was younger. You know, he had his own ways. A lot of the things that he did and said, man, behind the scenes were nothing like the person that he was in front of the camera. You know, when I first came across Savage Studios videos, I used to watch him. You know, he had some good stories. I could identify with some of the stories. And then I seen where he started to take a turn, where he started to become a little bit more about himself rather than the stories he was telling. And he got a little too flamboyant, a little too hasty in what he was talking about, and made everything about himself. And that's what happens on social media. You get that bug. You start believing you're a YouTube superstar. You start believing you're just basically a content creator putting out entertainment and educational things for people. But you start to think that you're something more than you really are. And someone will humble you real fast. See, there's a lot of people that don't play the social media bullshit. There's a lot of people that don't gang bang over the phone or don't gang bang online. You know, so they feel some type of way. They feel disrespected on a different level. And it becomes a point where you become a trophy because you run your mouth so much that people are like, if I could eradicate this guy, I could get this guy away from, you know, social media, I'll be a hero. Now, I'm not saying this is the case with the guy who ultimately murdered him. He's been convicted of it now. It's no longer an allegedly. He's self-admitted he's a convicted murderer. Will he have an appeal? I'm sure. But he actually got 25 years to life for the Savage Studio murder. And he's now residing in Calipatria prison, or that's where he last was. You know, when I heard about it, I was shocked. Because, you know, it's a close community, especially the prison genre. We all, whether we know each other in real life, we all know about each other, watch each other's videos, support each other, or we don't. Regardless of that fact, we're tapped in and tuned into what's going on, the latest news within the circle. And Savage Studios was definitely, you know, one of the first Chicanos to be doing that. Okay. He blew up off social media. I think one of his biggest videos was the video he did on Gabriel Fernandez. And I remember I watched that several times. In fact, I just watched it the other day, just tripping out on how, because he had a son, he seemed so real on how he felt. I thought that was one of his better videos. I felt that Savage Studio had the talent to make it if he could just keep his mouth closed for a minute. If he could stop falling into the trap of fighting back with the trolls and the people that were hating on him. Now, he needed to understand the situation he was in. As a non-active gang member, you're going to get hate. It just is what it is. Not everybody thinks you're the cool guy. You're not the cool guy in school no more, right? You're now on the other side, and you have to adapt, reflect, and realize that's just your life, man. There's not going to be a lot of people that agree with it, but at the end of the day, it's your truth. Now, what I think stood out about Savage Studios differently from someone like myself and other people is we've never denied the fact, I myself have never denied the fact that I'm no longer active, that I'm not a gang member, that I'm not in that, right? I lived that life for a lot of years, decades. I participated at a high level, in and out of prison, the youth authority, on the streets, drug dealing, gang banging, anything that it encompassed, the street life, I was involved. I might not look it, I might not act it, but there was no acting when you were living it in real life. Now, with Savage, he didn't do that. And I think ultimately that was part of the reason he was killed, was because people were manipulated and tricked into thinking that he was still an active gang member, that he still was participating with the functions or with the program or with the politics. And slowly but surely, just like every other content creator, everything about you will be figured out and found out. And then when it came to light that he was actually a member of a dropout gang, the 2-5s, a lot of people didn't like that. Because the big fan base that he had was from Southern California. Him being an ex-Southsider, or at that time people thought he was still an active Southsider, someone who was just now on the streets taking care of his family. He put on that image. He never corrected anyone. He always skirted around that. By him doing that, what it did was it let a lot of people down, and a lot of people that supported him, and made him feel some type of way. And then when they found out that he was part of a dropout prison gang, that he was actually the adversary to everything that they believed, it made them hate him. So he would get a lot of fucking drama going on, and he would go back and forth with a lot of people. When he came at me, he first tried to reach out to do a collab, and I shut him down. And I'm going to tell you guys a story right now that's untold, that I've never told anybody, ever, right? And the reason I didn't want to tell it is because I see his mother on TikTok all the time. She pops up on my TikTok feed, and she's going through some emotional stuff when it comes to her son. She's missing her son. And I could never understand that because I'm not a mother, I'm a father. But I could understand if I lost one of my children, how I would feel. Fuck the YouTube shit and what everyone else thought about him. That was her son. So she's going to feel a certain type of way. So I always felt if I told this story, it would be a little bit disrespectful. It'd be disrespecting the dead. But I feel this is a story I've been sitting on for a long time that I need to speak on. I need to tell, right? So we're going to get to that in a minute. Make sure you stay with this video because it's never been told. And albeit, man, it's not going to shed the best light on Savage Studios. It just is what it is. I feel everything will be exposed in 2024, right? So he reached out to me to do a collab. And at that time, he had made a mistake. He had made the ultimate mistake, to which he paid an ultimate price. And he had disrespected a certain prison organization, whether he was drunk or not, or just being flamboyant or boisterous, or thought he could get away with that. But nobody can get away with what he did. And ultimately, he knew that he fucked up the next day, so he quickly apologized. But something like that is real life. Something like that, when you disrespect certain people that don't play, that take even the most minor infraction as disrespect, you have to understand ultimately you're going to have to be running for the rest of your life, looking over your shoulder. Savage Studios didn't strike me as the type of guy that would run from anything. He stood firm in his beliefs. I watched him call into podcasts and accost people like Bozo and confront people and try to speak his piece, try to convince people that the SNY side, that the other side was even more righteous than the general population. But at the end of the day, you can slice it, cut it up, flip it however you want, man. It's never going to be considered righteous. Okay, does the SNY yards pop off? Are they vicious? Are they some of the most violent yards in the CDC? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are there some hitters and killers over there? Yes, but there's also rats, there's also chomos, there's also predators over there. And if you function with them guys, then you're considered, if you kick it with trash, you're going to start stinking like it eventually, right? I've heard it a gang of times. Anyway, so when he reached out to me, this is right after he had disappeared from YouTube for a minute because of what he said. And he had, he had his kid, his old lady, at the time, Brittany, they were doing their thing. And they started a new channel, The Savage Family. And I thought, man, this is the perfect lane for him. He had a beautiful baby's mother. He had a kid. I mean, it was just a perfect avenue, a perfect change for him where he can go that route, do the family thing, and blow up like so many others have on YouTube, doing relationship vlogs, showing the ins and outs of their relationship, the good, the bad, the pranks, the ugly, whatever, right? But he decided ultimately he couldn't stay away from the shine, couldn't stay away from the clout, and decided to come back, and came back this time as openly to Fiverr, representing it to the fullest. And in the midst of that, he started to go at it with a lot of actives, a lot of people on YouTube, TikTok. He moved over to TikTok for a while. And ultimately, he fucked with the wrong person. That's why you don't know who you're talking to. That's one thing as a content creator, I tell people, our faces are here. People see us. So everyone's looking at us, but we don't know what everyone looks like that's looking at us. So you can make someone mad. Like I said, they could be on their Buffalo Bill shit, licking your picture on a wall, trying to really get at you. And you don't know. And that's what happened with Savage Studios. He ran into the wrong person who felt a certain way, felt that the disrespect was, you couldn't apologize for it, and decided to make his move. So anyways, when he reached out to me to do that collab, I said, Charlie, for two reasons. One, I didn't want no parts in the organization he disrespected. I felt like doing a collab with him ultimately would leave a bad taste in their mouth. They'd feel like, hey, I was condoning it or promoting this guy. And I didn't want to do that. And he didn't like that. And the second thing was what I'm about to tell you guys here in a minute, which was my own personal thing when it came to him. So it went from that to immediately being cool on the phone to a lot of hate, to a lot of fuck yous, to a lot of this, a lot of that. And then we were able to facilitate a conversation and kill that noise after a back and forth. And then he started to go at me again because he felt that he was supposed to fight Boxer from Paradigm Media. They were supposed to do a boxing match. We were trying to promote it, figure it all out. Savage was being a diva in that. That's the truth. He didn't, he wanted all kinds of money. He wanted this, he wanted that. And Boxer just wanted a box, plain and simple. True story. Savage woofed on him. And because he felt that I was backing Boxer's play, but all I was doing was keeping it correct and saying, hey, you're the one ducking, dodging. You're the one that wants this and that. He didn't like it. So he went at me hard. He disrespected my family, disrespected, everything about me, which was cool. He kind of strayed away from YouTube. He noticed when he came back, his numbers weren't doing the same. He was exposed already. People were figuring out that he was a dropout gang member, that he was pushing that. And some of his followers in the beginning decided not to fuck with him. So ultimately he ended up on TikTok and Instagram, and he started doing his thing over there. And I remember the last conversation I had with Savage Studios, he called me about a week before he died. And he had just got done, or in fact, it was just a few days before he died, because he had just got done doing an interview with Flacco from a convict's perspective. If you haven't seen it, that's the last interview alive with Savage Studios. True story. They had just got done doing an interview together, sitting at a park or something. And he calls me. It was payday for YouTube. And out of the blue, I get a phone call. I don't recognize the number. I don't know how he got my number, probably from another content creator, but he calls me and he says, hey, are you good? And I said, who's this? And he says, Savvy Sav is what he calls himself. I said, Savvy motherfucker Sav, what's up with you? The last I had heard, man, we were supposed to see each other in some type of alley. We had come to an understanding that we weren't going to woof on each other or talk shit about each other. But if we ever seen each other, there was no white flags being waved. We're going to have to take care of our business. There was already too much disrespect, right? But we weren't looking for each other or trying to do a boxing match. It was just going to be a real fight in the cuts, not filmed, whatever, right? And do it like men. And so when he called me, I was shocked. And he said, are you good? I said, are you good? What's up? And after he told me who he was, and he was like, hey, bro, did you get paid yet? I just want to know if you get paid. Because sometimes they pay different content creators at certain different times. But you're going to get paid, right? So I said, yeah, I already got paid, bro. Don't trip. Yours is coming. He was like, man, he was stressed out. Like, damn, I need that money or whatever, right? I don't know his money situation at that time, but he just wanted his money. And that was that. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, you'll get paid. He was like, all right, good looking out. Bam, he texts me later, hey, I got paid. All right, cool. That was it. 2 days later, he gets killed. Now, the guy who killed him, you see him right here in the back of the screen, and he's on the thumbnail. When Savage was first killed, there was a lot of stories going on about who killed him and why. Everything from it was the disrespect of the organization, a planned hit, it was content creator beef, and ultimately I think it was just Savage Studios. This guy just disliked Savage Studios for whatever reason. Maybe him and Savage Studios got into it, but I know that there was a couple things that happened, and one was Savage Studios started to get a little loose with his whereabouts. Everybody knew he was in the Barstow area. He was out there in Yucca Valley. I mean, he never shied away from it or hid that fact, but no one knew his approximate location. I guess some people did, but they didn't dox him or put it out there. I knew that we knew where he lived, me and a couple other content creators, but it wasn't that serious. He lived in the desert, you know? But he started to get loose on Instagram and TikTok and, you know, let people know that he was selling puppies. You know, he had dogs and cats. He had a hairless cat, a sphinx or whatever it is. And this individual actually reached out to him and was trying to buy one of those dogs. Now, I don't know if that was just a setup to get to Savage Studios so he could hit him, or if he was legitimately trying to buy a dog and maybe Savage Studios played him out and so he felt a certain type of way. You know, I don't know if he got burnt or if that ever, you know, came through, but I know people were putting up those messages between these guys trying to play detective and figure out. Now, when he first got killed, there was another guy that has the same name, Manuel Robledo, whose picture was being circulated. If you see my old video about Savage when he died, there is a picture of Manuel Robledo, a different Manuel Robledo, but I covered the face because I always do that when it's an ongoing investigation. I don't really want to, you know, I didn't do that with the G-Face thing. I think that's pretty much out there, you know, but I don't speak on if this guy did it or he didn't do his crime. It is always alleged, right? So I wasn't sure that was him or not. But now come to find out it was a whole different person. And the guy that's on the back screen right there, that's actually who did it, who's convicted of it. Now, you know, according to the story I heard, and I'm going to give you guys the in-depth of what I heard, man, coming from his old lady. Savage Studios was working at the shop. This is the exact what happened, and I'll tell you the other story, right? So Savage was working at the shop that day. He had forgot his gloves. He had forgot his gloves at the pad. So this guy was supposed to be, I guess he hooked up with this guy through whatever social media. This guy was supposed to pull up and get a tattoo. Savage figured, hey, he's one of my fans. He's one of my supporters. I'm going to hook him up, whatever, right? The guy came in. He was wearing a full mask, hoodie over his head, all black, sunglasses on. Very suspicious. But if you remember in them times, people were wearing masks because of COVID. So that was still happening, right? So it wasn't weird to see someone wearing a mask in a place of business. But if I was Savage, I would have been on alert. You know, you don't know this guy. And that's the thing. Like I said, you don't know how people are really feeling about you. So this guy pulls up. Savage is in there. Well, his lady, this is his lady story. She comes in. Immediately, she sees him sitting in Savage's area. She has an eerie feeling about him. Now, she had came to bring Savage Studios gloves. He had called her, hey, I need gloves. I'm out of gloves. These are facts, right? I'm out of gloves. Can you bring them from the pad? So when she brought him gloves, she sees this guy. She asks him, who is this guy? She has a bad feeling. This is what she told me. She had a bad feeling, right? And Savage is like, oh, no, he's a supporter. It's all good. Don't trip. So she leaves. But she still says she has a funny feeling about him. The guy was not looking in her direction, didn't say too much. Usually a guy would be nice. Hey, how you doing? Whoop-de-whoop, right? He's a big supporter. Whatever. Can I get a picture? Even with his old lady. But he didn't. He was kind of standoffish. So she leaves thinking, hey, Savage got, he's a big boy. He can handle his business. Well, this guy decides, hey, I need to smoke a frajo. Okay? This is the story that she told me. He needed to smoke a frajo and Savage wanted to blow a little bud, right? So Savage Studio, he had parked maybe one parking space besides Savage Studios' parking space. And so when Savage went to go get in his car to grab the weed, this guy reached in his car and pulled out a chopper. When Savage turned around, he let him have it. Savage didn't see it coming, man. There was no fighting back. There was no nothing. He just gave him the business. That's it. The guy jumped in his stolen vehicle, headed back home. He gets pulled over, arrested an hour later, right? And that's that. So it's a year later, man. People have went to the location. I don't know if they have a memorial there for Savage. I know there's a lot of people that hated him and they still talk shit about him. That's unfortunate that they do that, you know, but I'm about to tell you guys something that you take it for what it is. You know, you could say, hey, you're disrespecting or not. Why didn't you say that when he was alive? And the thing was, I never wanted to put him on blast because it had left a sourpuss taste in his mouth and other people's mouths. And it just, I don't hit below the belt. You know, I'm not trying to get that deep in it, but I felt like I should tell you guys this story. So I was in Jamestown, non-active at the time, 50-50 yard, okay? I got caught up for a fight in the kitchen. I was working in the kitchen, got caught up, man, beat up some dude. They put me in the hole. Okay, I'm back in the hole, and they had integrated yard. Integrated yards meaning just we were all non-active, but the yard, we'd have group yards is what they are. And so I'm in the group yard and whatever. I had a celly, and I've told you guys the story, man. I was in the yard. I got off with some fucking white crip, right? That was all bad and just whatever. But prior to that, there was a lot of gay stuff going on the tier. There was a lot of chirujos that were upstairs in the hole that would be arguing and conversating with these guys that were their prison boyfriends or whatever. It was kind of weird there, right? In that hole. A lot of these guys were on overlays or they were coming from different institutions. So they kept, the people on the top were like S and Y. The guys on the bottom were on the 50-50 yard, right? In this particular hole. So I'm downstairs with my homeboy, my celly. He's an Asian cat from Bakersfield, right? Cool ass dude. And we're chopping it up. And I could hear Savage Studios upstairs arguing with someone. Now, how do I know it was him? Because I watched him walk to the showers. I seen him go to, he had caught a write-up. I seen him go to his hearing. It was him, Sagala. I remember that name. He looked how he looked still, right? He was up there arguing with the chirujos on some different stuff. And I remember the cop went to his door and told him, hey, we're going to send paperwork to your family if you keep arguing, explaining, what you're in here for. And I'm ear hustling at the door, not bumping baking soda breath, but ear hustling. Come to find out he was in the hole for inmate to inmate relationships. Now, I don't know if he was gay or if he was really just doing that or whatever. And I'm not trying to smut his name up because he's dead, right? I'm just saying that's what the cop said. And I didn't know him. Didn't know him from Adam back then. So it was none of my business. I was just like, whatever, right? They're wild over there. And then later on, when I figured out who he was and I seen him on YouTube, I was like, wow, that was him, right? I remember it clicked. And I remember I told a couple of the content creators, about it in the cuts, and they were like, expose that shit, put it out there. He's talking so much shit. And even though he was talking about my mother and my family and my daughters and all that, I still never did that. Why am I putting it out now? I don't think it holds no bearing on him. And I'm not saying that he was a gay man or any of that, but I'm saying in prison, people do wild shit. And he actually was from a group that at that time was, they were punking chirujos on the yard and they were having relationships with some of them. And that's just a fact. So I don't know. That's true. But anyways, with that being said, it's a year later, man. And rest in peace truly to Savage Studios. I know it shocked the YouTube community because it showed people that shit gets real. Shit that you say on the internet, on social media gets very real. I don't know how many people got to get murdered, killed, shot, stabbed, maimed, kidnapped, or whatever, man, for people to realize that everything you say will be held and used against you, even on social media. Everyone talks about, hey, keyboard bangers, but sometimes, man, there's guys on the other end of that computer screen that ain't about just keyboard banging. They're about real banging, right? So you have to watch who you have interactions with and who you talk shit to. You might think, and these guys will lie in wait. Some of them will play the role like they're your friend, and really they hate your guts. They hate everything about you. Maybe it could be old victims, family members, or you just don't know who you're dealing with, With Savage Studios, he became so flamboyant that he started to drop his location thinking that nobody would pull up. And Manuel did, man. Unfortunately, it's a lesson, a hard lesson for his family and a lesson for all of us, to keep it respectful. For all these people that are trolling and hating and talking shit, no one's ever going to do anything. You never know. You never know when someone's in your area and decide, you know what, fuck, I'm going to fuck this guy off right now. Or their old lady leaves them and they crash out and they go buck wild. You just don't know what people are going through. I've seen people crash out in prison and take someone's wind, man, for nothing. I've seen it happen on the streets. So you have to be very aware. Social media is nothing to play with. You're playing with fire, man, and you will get burnt. With that being said, I hope that you move with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. Remember, at the end of the day, it's very easy for you to get caught up in the clout chasing and the social media. And Savage Studio paid the ultimate price. Who could be next? It's funny, when he died, man, there was a lot of people saying, Gunner, you're next. You're next. I took that literally. And so I scaled back some of my craziest ways and things I was doing. Not only because that's not the true person I am. I had to stop fucking coming out of my comfort zone and doing too much. But because that's not what I want to project to people that are out there for positivity, man. I'm just about being real, no adding preservatives, and being transparent and speaking my truth, man, whether you like it or you don't. You don't have to watch me. You don't have to respect me, man. But at the end of the day, I respect myself, and that's what matters. Salutes. Rest in peace to Savage. This is the gun.